Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Nick from Australia. Welcome to the West Tigers 2021 season review. A very miserable year for the West Tigers, finishing the year in 13th place, 8 wins, 16 losses, 18 competition points. A really miserable year for the West Tigers. Disappointing year as well. Once again, they missed the finals. They haven't made the finals since 2011, so it's been a long year, a long decade for the Tigers now without playing finals football. So, I hope the Tigers can improve going into next year. Next year has to be a lot better than this year for the Tigers. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But before I get into the West Tigers review, make sure you guys go ahead and like this video, comment your thoughts on the West Tigers season in the comment section below. Most importantly, hit that subscribe button as well, fellas. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. But let's get in to the West Tigers 2021 season review. And like I said before, they finished the season in 13th place on the competition ladder. 8 wins, 16 losses, 18 competition points. Simply not good enough for the West Tigers considering the last month of the season or so. They were a small chance on playing finals. I think the game in round 23 against the Sharks is where their top 8 dreams pretty much ended there, and then after that, they fell off a cliff. They lost some shocking results the back end of the year. But let's have a look at the Tigers' start of the year. And the first game of the year was against Canberra, where they were beaten 30 points to 12. Fairly competitive in that game for a while, but eventually blown out. Flogged by the Roosters. They had their first win of the season against Newcastle. I believe it was Mitchell Pearce's 300th game as well. So Tigers spoiling the party there. Lost to Parramatta on the Easter Monday game. They lost to the Cowboys on the Tommy Raudonikis this weekend, where he passed away, and the Tigers were doing it for Tommy Raudonikis, and the Tigers let him down, and they lost to the Cowboys, who were winless at that point, 34 points to 30. They almost beat the Rabbitohs, but they lost that game on the bell. Very unlucky to lose that. Lost to Manly by 40. Beat the Dragons in a really low-scoring grind, 16-8. That was probably one of their most surprising results of the year, considering at the time the Dragons were playing some pretty good footy. They lost to the Titans. They bounced back against the Knights there at Magic Round, winning that game 36-18. So by round 10, the Tigers, they were very inconsistent. 1 week they would lose to the Cowboys. The next week they were competitive with the Rabbitohs, lose to 40 by Manly, then beat the Dragons out of nowhere. So they were very inconsistent in the first 10 rounds of the season. Then they lost to the Warriors by 4 points there in a tight game. They beat the Dragons. Again, win-loss, very inconsistent. They beat the Panthers when they had their origin stars out. A good result there for the Tigers. They lose to Parramatta by 40. They lose to Melbourne 66-16, which was just a really ugly result. Lost to the Bunnies 38-22. Beat the Broncos 42-24 in an entertaining game. They got smashed by Manly. Lost to the Warriors in a real tight one. Beat the Dogs. Beat the Cowboys. 2 in a row. They're a chance at the 8. They lose to the Sharks 50-20 up at Rockhampton, which pretty much ruined their top 8 chances. And then they lost to Penrith 30-16. And then in the final round, they lost 38-0 to the Bulldogs, who won the wooden spoon. So the fact that the West Tigers were still in contention for the top 8 come round 23 was ridiculous. So inconsistent. They had no consistency. They had no leadership all year, and it was a very ordinary year for the West Tigers. And I know the West Tigers did that Tale for Tiger Town documentary on Fox Sports, on Fox Leg there. But, I mean, it was a failure, wasn't it? If you go back and watch it, all you'll see is Michael Maguire going off his rocket, saying the fuck word every 20 seconds, and Robbie Farah just running instructions out on the field. There was no, no leadership there. What, you think Adam Dewey and James Tarmo are going to be the leaders of your club? If that's the case, well, you're in for a long year, because with all due respect to Adam Dewey and James Tarmo, Adam Dewey's the future of the club, so I can understand that. James Tarmo, he doesn't play enough minutes anymore. He's getting older. He's getting slower. He may be a good leader off the field, but when it comes to on the field, his actions are not showing leadership qualities. And You know, I think the Tigers need to go in a different direction now. I think if the West Tigers are serious, if they want to have a good future, they got to build their future around Adam Doueihi and Daine Laurie. And next year they get Jackson Hastings. They got to build their future and their leadership qualities around those three players going into 2022. They're the players that I'm looking at next year for the Tigers. I'm going, okay, they're the ones that are going to be on the field, you know, playing at their best every week and putting it all on the line. You know, players like James Tarmo, they're not going to be doing that. James Tarmo's old, he's getting slower. You know, having a look at that forward pack as well. I think Alex Twal, another good player, but not a player that's going to lead by example every week. You know, the players at the Tigers I'm looking at, you know, in the spine, I'm looking at young Daine Laurie, the future. Adam Doueihi, probably a future captain. Jackson Hastings coming back to the NRL. That'll be great. I'm looking forward to that. He's a good leader himself, so that'll be good. And then the forward pack, you know, I'm looking at players like Stefano, who's a good young kid. Luciano Leilua, a fantastic young player. Leads by his actions, not by what he says. He just says to the players here and there, all right, I'm not much of a talker, but I'm going to go out there and just play my role. And if I'm having a great game, you guys need to be fitting on the back of it. So, Tigers this year, just so disappointing. You know, at the start of the year, I had West Tigers for the wooden spoon. I said they'd have a shocker. Now, not quite the wooden spoon, but they did finish 13th, so they did make the bottom four. So I did get the bottom four prediction right. But the Tigers frustrate me. You know, a club like them, growing up as a young kid, the Tigers were always a very, very good competitive side. I remember as a young fella, 2010, 2011, the Tigers were great. They were a top four side. They were a quality team. They were a premiership contender. They were so good. They had Benji Marshall, Robbie Farah, Chris Hyington, all these players doing their job every week, you know. But ever since 2011, things have fallen off a cliff. So I hope things can improve for them going into next year. Having a look at some of their best wins and best losses for the year, I'd say probably their best win. It's really hard to say because they didn't have many great wins this year. I'd say the West Tigers' best result this year was probably the one against Penrith from round 13. That was a good result. The one against the Knights at Magic Round was a very good result. They were about $2.50 going into that game. I remember because I was at Magic Round and no one thought Tigers could win that game and they ended up flogging them. I'd say that was probably one of their best results of the season. So, look, I'd say the Magic Round result against Newcastle was probably their best win, along with the one against the Knights back in round 3. Their worst result, well, I think the game against Melbourne in round 15, 66-16 loss there. That's just putrid, honestly. 40-12 loss against Parramatta. What else is here? A lot of bad losses here. 40-6 against the Roosters in round 2. A lot of bad results here from the West Tigers, even the last round as well. 38-0. The loss against Cronulla, 50-20. A lot of bad losses there for the West Tigers. If I had to rate their season out of 10, so obviously 10 being the best, which clearly wasn't them. 5 being average, maybe a pass mark. I'm going to say the West Tigers this year probably get a 3 out of 10. They were a failure. They were disappointing, inconsistent. They just were not a good team to watch. When they were on, they were entertaining. When the Tigers are on, they're always entertaining. But when they're off, man, they're just putrid to watch, to be honest. If I had to pick some of their great players and best players, I think some of their best players this year, I think Daine Laurie had a great year. Nofaluma was all right. I thought Tommy Talau had a really good season. Adam Doueihi was great. Stefano was great. Luciano Leilua, Alex Twal. Who else stood out for the Tigers this year? Zach Sini, who played a couple of games, he was very good for him. Jacob Little had some good moments, but again, pretty inconsistent. Thomas McKayla is very good. Tara Frangali was pretty good this year. Jack Simpkin, he's getting better. Some of their terrible players. Luke Brooks, once again, he had a shocking season. Very poor year from Luke Brooks. I think it's time the Tigers move him on and go elsewhere. Look, I said it a few weeks ago in the corner post. Luke Brooks is an absolute joke of a player, and he's probably the worst halfback the Tigers have had in a long time. And he needs to be removed, man. It needs to go to a different club and play in a different system. Who else was here? Sean Bloor, good young kid, but very, very inconsistent as well. Cheekham, very blah for him. Who else is there? Joseph Leilua, just complete dead weight. He was shocking this year. James Roberts was shocking. Moses Mbai, again, more dead weight to get rid of. He was terrible. Ken Mamalo came mid-year. I thought he was pretty good for him, Ken Mamalo. Yeah, look, really, James Tamar as well. I thought he was shit house. But overall, really disappointing year for the West Tigers. If I had to pick out the best and worst, I'll say the best player, Dane Laurie and Stefano and Adam Dewey. The worst players, I'll say Joey Leilua, I'll say Luke Brooks, and I will say James Roberts. They were all really poor. Final thing I'll say about the Tigers, because I don't want to talk about them too much longer because they're disappointing. And look, I want the West Tigers to do well. You know, Leichhardt Oval was a fantastic venue. Campbelltown as well. They've got some great facilities down there. They need to get the right players. They need to get the right people. I think Justin Pascoe needs to move on. He's absolutely shocking. Michael Maguire needs to get more control of this of the salary cap and get some better players in. I think Jackson Hastings and Oliver Gildart are going to be good for him, but they need more than that for next year. Overall, disappointing year. Tigers for mine, 3 out of 10. Really poor year for the Tigers, and I hope they get better. I want them to improve, and hopefully next year the Tigers can go a lot better than what they did in 2021. But guys, that's it for the West Tigers 2021 season review. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you guys go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night for the Nick from Australia late night footy show. See you later, lads.